2 foods. That's it. 2. And with just 2 foods, the Apache crossed deserts that killed grown men in 48 hours. Deserts where the sun cooked the ground to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Deserts where no water flowed for hundreds of miles. While American cavalry units collapsed from heat stroke and dehydration, Apache warriors walked across the same brutal land for weeks at a time. Calm, focused, unstoppable. And the secret to their survival wasn't magic. It wasn't superhuman genes, it was 2 simple foods, carried in a small leather pouch, light enough to run with, nutritious enough to fight on. This is the story of the Apache 2-food survival system, the diet that conquered the harshest desert in North America. Let's go back to around 1700 AD. The American Southwest, a land of red rock, scorching sand, and endless silence. The Sonoran Desert, the Chihuahuan Desert, the deserts of modern-day Arizona, New Mexico, and northern Mexico. This was Apache country. These weren't gentle desert plains, these were killing grounds. Summer temperatures regularly hit 120 degrees. Winter nights dropped below freezing. Water sources were rare, often poisoned, often dry. And yet the Apache thrived. They lived here, they hunted here, they fought here. And when the US Army came to push them out in the 1800s, they discovered something terrifying. The Apache couldn't be caught. They moved through the desert like ghosts, without supply trains, without cook fires. They just disappeared into the heat and reappeared 100 miles away, fully fed, fully strong, ready for battle. How did they do it? The answer was 2 foods, that's all. The first food was dried meat, usually venison, but sometimes rabbit, javelina, antelope, or whatever wild game the Apache could hunt. They sliced the meat into thin strips, salted it lightly when salt was available, and laid it out under the brutal desert sun. And here's the genius. The Apache didn't need fire to preserve their meat. They didn't need smoke. The desert itself did all the work. The dry air sucked the moisture out within hours. The hot sun killed bacteria on contact. The natural wind kept flies away. In 24 to 48 hours, fresh meat became hard, dry strips that could last for months without spoiling. The climate that killed lesser men became the Apache's preservation tool. They turned the desert's deadliest weapon, the relentless sun, into their kitchen. But dried meat alone wasn't enough. Pure meat without carbs leaves the body weak, slow, and exhausted in extreme heat. So the Apache had a second food that completed the system. They called it Pinole. Pinole was a finely ground powder made primarily from toasted corn. But not just any corn. The Apache would harvest corn from their small mountain gardens, or trade for it from neighboring tribes. They would roast the corn kernels over low heat until they turned golden brown and nutty. Then they would grind the roasted kernels into a fine flour using stone tools called metates. To this corn powder, they would add other ingredients: toasted chia seeds, mesquite bean flour, dried cactus fruit, especially from the prickly pear and saguaro, sometimes a small amount of honey or wild herbs. The result was Pinole, a tan-colored, slightly sweet, intensely nutritious powder that could be eaten dry, mixed with water, or shaped into balls. And this Pinole wasn't just food, it was a survival superweapon. Modern nutritionists have actually studied traditional Pinole recipes. The results are stunning. A single handful, about 100 grams, contains around 400 calories. It's loaded with slow-burning carbohydrates from the corn, healthy fats and omega-3s from the chia seeds, protein from the mesquite, vitamin C, antioxidants and electrolytes from the cactus fruit. It's basically a complete nutritional package, fine-tuned for desert survival, invented hundreds of years before science could explain why it worked. An Apache warrior could carry just 1 pound of Pinole and have enough energy to run, fight, and travel for 2 or 3 days straight. Combine that with dried meat, and a small leather pouch could keep a man alive for weeks. But here's where the story gets really wild. The way Apache warriors used Pinole was almost unbelievable. They would mix it with water from desert springs to create an instant cold drink that hydrated and fueled the body at the same time. They could drink it on the move, even while running, and the Apache could run. We're talking about running 50 miles in a single day, sometimes more, through burning desert heat, without resting for hours. Modern endurance athletes who have studied Apache running culture are still amazed by what they accomplished. And the secret fuel for all of it was Pinole. It was the original endurance fuel. Centuries before energy gels, sports drinks, and power bars were invented, dried meat completed the picture perfectly. While Pinole gave the Apache fast carb energy, dried meat gave them long-lasting protein and fat. Together, the two foods created a perfect balance. Carbs for sprinting, fat for endurance, protein for muscle recovery, salt and minerals for electrolyte balance. A complete nutritional system packed into two simple ingredients, carried in a single small pouch that didn't weigh more than 3 pounds. Now here's the part that completely shocked the US military. During the long Apache wars of the late 1800s, American soldiers were repeatedly humiliated by Apache resistance. Geronimo, the legendary Apache leader, famously evaded an army of 5,000 American soldiers for over a year with just 35 followers, including women and children. Think about that. 35 Apache outran, out-survived, and outmaneuvered 5,000 trained soldiers across the most brutal terrain in North America. How? Because while the soldiers needed wagons full of canned food and water barrels, the Apache traveled with nothing but their Pinole pouches and strips of dried meat. They could go where the army couldn't follow. They could survive where the army couldn't last. The Apache two-food system gave them total freedom of movement in a land that was supposed to kill them. And here's something almost nobody talks about. The Apache didn't just eat these two foods because they had to. They ate them because they worked better than anything else available. Some Apache groups had access to fresh meat, fresh vegetables, and cooked meals when they were in camp. But the moment they needed to travel, fight, or hunt, they switched to Pinole and dried meat. They understood on a deep, practical level that these two foods gave them the highest performance per ounce of any food on Earth. They were the ancient version of military combat rations, lightweight, long-lasting, nutritionally complete, ready to eat in seconds. And the wildest part? You can still make these foods today. Pinole is making a comeback in the modern world. Health food stores in the United States and Mexico now sell traditional Pinole. Endurance athletes use it for marathons and ultramarathons. Survivalists pack it for emergency kits. And dried meat in the form of jerky is one of the most popular snacks in the modern world. The Apache two-food system isn't dead, it's just been rebranded. The same wisdom, the same nutritional logic, the same survival power. Even today, military researchers studying optimal field rations have looked closely at the Apache diet. The conclusion is clear. The Apache had figured out something most modern food scientists are still trying to perfect: how to feed a human being for maximum endurance in extreme conditions with minimum weight using only natural ingredients. The US Army's modern MRE rations contain dozens of ingredients, plastic packaging, and chemical preservatives. The Apache achieved the same nutritional results with 2 simple foods and a leather pouch. They didn't need technology, they needed wisdom. But here's the part that will haunt you. This knowledge almost died. When the Apache were forced onto reservations in the late 1800s, their entire way of life was destroyed. Their hunting grounds were taken, their food traditions were broken. For decades, the deep, practical wisdom of the Apache two-food system was nearly forgotten. It survived only because a few elders kept the recipes alive, because researchers wrote them down. Today, Pinole is being rediscovered. The same foods that fed warriors and outsmarted the US cavalry are quietly returning to American kitchens. So the next time you walk into a grocery store and stare at thousands of products, remember this. The Apache fed warriors, runners, and resistance fighters with just 2 simple foods. They proved that survival doesn't require complexity, it requires intelligence. It requires understanding your environment. 2 foods, 1 desert, total survival. If this story amazed you, hit that subscribe button and join the Alternate Past family for more forgotten survival wisdom like this. And tell me in the comments, could you live on pinole and dried meat for a month to survive the desert? Yes or no?